Ladies and gentlemen, let us deal directly with the issue of illegal immigration and the recent ruling by the Supreme Court. On September 8, 2025, the court made it clear that federal immigration agents have the authority to stop and question individuals when there is probable cause to believe they may be in the country illegally. Predictably, the ruling has sparked outrage from activists, politicians, and so-called civil rights defenders who claim this violates the Fourth Amendment and opens the door to abuse. But the truth is, the ruling was correct. It is practical, it is reasonable, and it is necessary. Let's review the facts.
The ultimate tongue lasher, the voice corrupt leaders dread. He shall not stop until their power is dead. Exposing every corrupt leader and every lie. With steel in his spirit, corruption will die. Corrupt leaders will tremble, the crooked will fall. Honor is the standard, integrity for all. Truth is his weapon, with fire in every word. His voice is the judgment, and justice will be served.
Let us strip away the emotion and look at this logically. If we know criminals are in our midst, and we want to identify them and remove them, how else can that be done without questioning people? It cannot. That is the reality. And the people who are so outraged by this ruling are ignoring the simple truth that if you are a law-abiding citizen, you have nothing to hide. A quick stop, a brief verification, a minute or two of your time, and you move on. That is not oppression. That is common sense. Now some will argue that this is a slippery slope, that American citizens should not have to prove themselves on the street. But we are already required to provide identification for countless other things. You need ID to drive, to board a plane, to buy alcohol, to open a bank account, even to check into a hotel. Why then should it suddenly be an outrageous violation of rights to provide ID when law enforcement is trying to separate citizens from criminals? There is no logic in that argument. And let us be clear about this. If you came here illegally, you broke the law. That makes you a criminal. You chose to violate the law of this country, and with that choice come consequences. What the Supreme Court has done is simply confirm that enforcement officers can do their jobs. The only people who should be worried about this ruling are those who have something to hide. Now, some critics are raising the point that not everyone carries identification at all times. That is true. But whose fault is that? It is common sense to carry your ID in public. If you are jogging, if you are at the park, if you are at the store, it is only wise to have it with you. And if by chance you do not, yes, there may be inconveniences. But those inconveniences are a small price to pay for the greater good of protecting our nation and removing those who have no right to be here. We must also address the argument that confrontations may arise. Some people say these stops could escalate, even to violence. And that is possible. But the same can be said about traffic stops. Should we abolish traffic enforcement because sometimes traffic stops turn deadly? Of course not. Risk is not a reason to abandon law enforcement. The answer is better training, better procedures, and more accountability, not throwing away a tool that is necessary for national security. Now let me pause for a moment and say this. Even though this ruling is correct, and even though I support this approach, I also believe there is a far better way to deal with illegal immigration. The better way is not to waste billions of dollars and thousands of man-hours chasing down illegal immigrants, one by one. The better way is to cut off their supply, make it impossible for them to live and work here by punishing those who help them. If a business hires an illegal immigrant, shut it down. If a homeowner employs one, seize the house. If a driver gives one a ride, seize the vehicle. And end every form of government aid or assistance which illegal currently receive, or from which they indirectly benefit. They will leave on their own. And whatever it costs to enforce such a policy, the money can come from the assets seized from violators. That is the smarter, cheaper, and more effective path. But that is another conversation. For now, let us return to the ruling at hand. This decision by the Supreme Court is not an attack on citizens. It is not oppression. It is a simple, reasonable measure to protect the sovereignty of the United States. And yet the protests rage on. Why? Because too many people in this country have been conditioned to work from emotion rather than reason. They hear the word profiling, they hear the word discrimination, and they stop thinking. But the facts are clear. Illegal immigration is a crime. Enforcement requires questioning, and no law-abiding citizen should fear that. The bottom line is this. If you are here legally, you have nothing to fear. If you are here illegally, you should be afraid. because the law is catching up with you. And to those who continue to protest this ruling, I say this plainly, you are not defending liberty. You are defending lawlessness. And lawlessness has no place in a nation built on laws. That is the plain truth. That is the Mr. Analytical truth. Thank you.